The book of Acts tells us about the birth of the church, the explosive beginnings in Jerusalem, and then the mission to the Gentiles. But when the final chapter closes, there are a bunch of loose ends that haven't been tied up. It feels like Acts is missing a chapter, like the story is still unfinished. And in fact, it is. Luke's aim in writing Acts was to describe the unstoppable progress of the gospel, and that progress has not ended. The mission of Jesus still goes on. All of our churches are part of it, part of this mission which changes the world. What does a world-changing local church look like? It needs to be a sending church. To catch a glimpse of what I mean by that, I want you to consider the church in Antioch, which Luke describes for us beginning in Acts 11. The community of Christians in Antioch started off with just Jewish believers. But when some Christians from Cyprus and Cyrene turned up, these courageous and trailblazing evangelists began spreading the message of Christ among the Gentile unbelievers, the non-Jews. And Luke tells us the hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number of people who believed turned to the Lord. Luke goes on to describe how Barnabas and Saul came to Antioch to strengthen those new believers. First of all, Barnabas was sent partly to evaluate what was going on, to check things out, but also to instruct and encourage the new Christians. He then fetched Saul, who we usually call Paul, and together the two of them trained and equipped the believers in Antioch for the important work ahead. These Christians' wholehearted commitment to Christ showed when a major famine impacted the Roman Empire. How did these new disciples respond? They immediately sent money to those who were in need in Judea. This was a gift in which the entire church participated. The church in Antioch committing to care for another church. Already they were mission-minded, eager to grow the global community of Christ. In Acts 13, Luke gives us the names of the leaders in the Antioch church, and they were diverse. To take three examples, Lucius was from North Africa, Manaen was part of the royal upper class, and Saul was a Jewish believer with an academic background. Such diversity would have been a powerfully attractive witness to the unbelieving Antioch culture. Each citizen could have imagined themselves being part of this church. They would have seen that the good news is not for one particular tribe or group, but for the nations. It shouldn't surprise us that this diverse church became the springboard to worldwide missions. Acts 13 continues describing how the Antioch Christians were led to send Barnabas and Paul on mission. Losing these leaders from their church cannot have been easy, yet they sent them. They knew that the mission was worth it. And as the story unfolds from this point, we read of ongoing evangelism and church planting. This church in Antioch was itself a plant, and it had a wide reach through planting more churches. A church planting another church that would plant another church that would plant another church. And today we need to replicate that missional passion. As you read and discuss together, you should be asking yourselves, how can we reflect the Antioch model? We need to be committed to sending. And why don't you pray with your group as you begin this discussion?